Hey everybody, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett here for another episode of the Mayor's Table. Today we're talking streets, we're talking public works, we're talking pipelines, we're talking about your tax dollars being put to work right here in the city of Farmington. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mayor's Table. I'm Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett. My special guest with me today is the esteemed Public Works and Community Development Director for the City of Farmington, David Sypher. David, thank you for being here.
Good morning. Good to be with you, Mayor.
So we're here, actually we're in the HQ downtown. I thought it'd be good to get another fresh look at kind of our project headquarters for what's going to be the Downtown Complete Streets project, which is kicking off in January.
Oh, we are excited. We should be bidding by January, so that's going to be exciting.
We're going to break ground in January.
Well,
So I thought this would be a good place to talk about this is the summer of road construction. It's road construction season. We're replacing water lines and sewer lines all across this community. And I wanted to make sure we put this out for the public to say, look, your elected officials are putting their money where our mouths are. We care about our streets. We care about water lines. We care about infrastructure. And to me, that's a fundamental component of what local government should be doing.
it really is. It's an exciting time in the history of Farmington. We're making ourselves an A1, a Class A city. And really that means that all the stuff that went into the ground, our pipe infrastructure back in the 50s, and the early 60s needs to be replaced. It's time. They've lived their life and we're getting some leaks, and it's time to do it. We've implemented, and council has done a great job of some forethought and implemented a great renewal and replacement program on our pipes. And of course, before we pave a new street, we want to go ahead and make sure that work's all done so we don't have to tear our streets back up. We have a street classification overall average of a fair, and council says we need to move it to a satisfactory level, and that's what we're doing. And so, as you know, council, with your direction as well, went forward and passed a new bond for our streets.
Right.
We're doing an amazing thing here, and I just love our community because they're so positive, Nate. There's a few people, Mr. Mayor, that maybe have some concerns, but each year that goes by, I get more and more positive feedback about the fact that we care about our infrastructure. You can go anywhere in the state and you're not going to find as good of infrastructure as we're putting together right now.
I absolutely agree with you. And in my travels across the state, when I go places, I'm very particular at looking at the conditions of the roads I drive on. I'm very particular looking at the parks that I drive by. I'm looking at the amount of traffic that's flowing through those communities. And it's, when I come through Farmington, clean streets. I see clean streets. And I know that there's streets in work, and we're at the end of the construction season now, mid-September. And it's been a summer, obviously, of orange barrels, which we had last summer as well, and which we anticipate in the upcoming year also.
That's right. We have a 2-year block here that we were authorized 3 years to get it done, and right now we're about the halfway point, and so we're pretty excited about that too. The fact that things are getting done, they were getting done right, and do you have hiccups? Yeah, we have hiccups at times, and we've got a great, and I'm going to take this opportunity, if I can, Mr. Mayor, to say that I'm really proud of the fact that we're getting the information out there this year, probably better than we ever have.
I want to highlight that.
Yes.
So on the City of Farmington's website, on the main page, you can scroll down and there's a button that you can click that says projects and road work.
Right.
And you click on that button or link, and it takes you to a map. Right. 2 maps right now that show what?
Well, one is just the general projects that we have in town. That's where you'll find the sewer and the water line and the utility line projects. The next, a different map, is just solely about streets because there's so much going on with streets.
Lane changes,
absolutely.
restripings,
Yes,
things
yes,
like that, right?
that's all on there. And
Okay.
at first we didn't have all that information on there. It was just the fact of whether we were doing crack sealing, whether we were doing chip seal, whether we were doing milling, whether we're doing overlays, whether we're doing micropave. All the different methods are being utilized because we want to save the citizens money. We use the proper application for the proper condition of the street.
Right.
And we're really, really trying hard to economize. And in fact, if I could talk about that for a minute,
Sure.
that is exactly the reason we're trying to get this done in the way we're doing it. We're trying to maximize the very limited amount of dollars that we have. This is an expensive process, and we want to spend
Asphalt
this money
is
well.
extremely expensive.
It is. It is. The prices have escalated almost double from what they were 10 years ago, and
Wow.
it's a big deal.
And in regards to that, and maximizing that tax dollar, making sure it goes as far as we possibly can, and putting it physically into the roads, people have asked why we don't do more road work at night on these main streets.
Right.
So, and we have obviously done road work at night on
We
some
have.
sections, depending on the amount of traffic in those areas in the day. But it costs more to do it at night.
It costs more and it's not as safe. I mean, what's it worth to get something done a little bit sooner if someone dies over it?
Sure.
It's just this. You do it when you have to do it. When it's just a super, super bad intersection, you'll do it at night. But
Right.
just generally, we don't.
So the lane changes I want to talk about a little bit because we've got a bike plan that we are trying to implement in the city. And we talk about the ability to use different means of transportation, be able to flow from north town to south of town, east and west, being able to do it without just having to drive a vehicle, I think is an important component of growing the viability in the future of the community we live in. Would you agree?
Oh man, when you're talking about outdoor recreation and making that viable for our community, we've got to have places for people to come and ride their bicycles. Our connectivity was all chopped up.
Yeah.
And we just took just a simple look at what we could do for almost no cost. And we found that there was a lot of really cool connections we could make.
Which, when we talk about making a bike lane on a street that's not historically had a bike lane, so let's use the example of Main Street in Hutton, in that corridor between Hutton and Fairgrounds. The determination there, it's not just we're going willy-nilly, we think this is a great place to reduce it from 3 lanes to 2 lanes and put a bike lane in. We're talking about, there's a scientific process of measuring traffic counts to ensure that it fits within the accepted universal models.
Oh, absolutely. These engineering principles are fully used so that we'll still have a very high level of service for the traveling public, whether that's our own citizens or tourists. Either way, we want a great level of service, and we have an awesome level of service here. We have taken measures throughout the town to do that. But I would point out that, generally speaking, our first axiom is that we do not want to reduce the number of lanes. And we applied that over 90% of our improvements that we've
Right.
made. The one that you mentioned on Main Street, we did drop a lane, but we went from having 3 lanes on either side to 2 lanes, which puts us way above the criteria necessary for having a high-functioning street.
Okay.
And it's working really well. What we did is we added also wider lanes, which makes things safer.
Yes.
It makes it safer
It's a very
to cross
narrow,
it.
it's a very narrow area with 3 lanes. I've always felt nervous coming in that area.
It is.
Approaching and going through the light.
It was, and so now you've got wider lanes. You still got your center lane, but you have 2 lanes in either direction,
Right.
which it's sandwiched between 2 areas that were already that way.
You put a turning lane
So-
in here, and you still had 2 lanes that were turning on to go to San Juan Boulevard. So very high functioning intersection.
High functioning on either side of each end of that we have been traditionally that way, and so all this does is match that. And we carefully measured the average daily traffic, and it was the same in both realms. So it's the same level of service. It's a high level of service, and we're happy with
Well,
it.
we also take into account in those areas where you've reduced a lane, the number of businesses that are on there, how much traffic is going in and out of those places. I mean, all those things are calculated as well.
Yes, I had a phone call before we did it because we'd try to get the information out that that's what we're doing. And a very calm, rational question, hey, I'm concerned about my business, and that they were having trouble getting out previously, and explained to them, well, one of the neat benefits to this is when you try to pull out now, you only have to cross 2 lanes.
Right.
instead of 3.
Or if you're going straight across 6.
And it makes it, that's right, and it makes it a safer, more easily negotiable thing, and that for you to have this change, let me go out there and look at it. And I did. I went out and looked at it at lunch, and because that's the time he told me that it was the worst. And you know, I think they're going to be very happy with it.
Well, I think the service level is high, David, and just the fact, that comment you made about being able to go out and actually work with the constituent here in the community, the business owner, to say, let's look at this together. You're always very diligent about doing that, or a staff member doing that. I appreciate that about your team. I definitely just wanted to bring this all together now that we're kind of coming to the end of it. It's going to open up again downtown next year. Let's be prepared, and let's be honest with ourselves. And when I say let's be honest with ourselves, let's be reasonable when we think about what the true impediment is to my daily travels across our city. When we live in a community that it doesn't take a whole lot of time to get from point A to point B, and if we have the ability to see road work maps, you can kind of plan out. You know, if there is somewhere that there's major construction going on and it's really going to impede your ability to get into a place you need to go, well, now you can see what's going on, understand the timelines that we're dealing with.
Take the route that you need.
Take another route to get there. So all those things are trying to be put in place for the right reasons.
Right.
We need to be transparent. We need to be open. We need to be able to communicate and have the public be educated, because when we're not educated, that's when we get frustrated.
Absolutely. And one of the points that we've talked about before is that the question's asked, why are you doing so much at once, though? Can't you cut it back a little bit? And really, it's all about economies of scale. And the economy of scales with streets is a little different than most economies of scale. If you miss that breaking point where a street goes from a fair condition to a reconstruct condition, you're going to spend 7 times the amount of money.
And we have a program
right?
that's keeping track of the conditions of these streets,
exactly.
that measure these things, that's put us on a roadmap in this 2-year plan to get a lot of that caught up, so that the lifespan can be extended further.
Right, without dropping off and costing our citizens 7 times the amount.
Right.
So rather than go there, that's why you see us trying to do the maximizing the most we can do now. And then this fall, you'll see that we have reserved some of those reconstruction streets that I spoke of. We are going to try to knock those off one at a time, and there'll be about 4 of those that we'll do into and through the winter period that you'll see us working on. But most of our projects will be done now.
Do you have anything you want to add before we
Well,
close this out?
just that we do have a huge year planned next year. You've mentioned that, but please go to the website when you have any concerns or want more information. Also, the project manager's phone number's on there. We welcome input. We welcome any questions that you might have. And we have the right people for you to talk to, so that you can talk to somebody that's knowledgeable about your project that's going to be affecting you.
I want to close on this. I had a phone call with a gentleman who moved here from another state. He was looking for a place to retire with his wife. They found Farmington, and they found all the data that they gathered about our city. They found online. They'd never visited here. They don't have family here. They knew nothing about Farmington. He took Google Earth and went down to Street View and drove our streets on Street View, and that was the main reason he chose to live here, was how clean our streets were, the beautification project for the main street medians, and the number of bike lanes, which he said when he came here, our bike lanes have not been updated on Google Earth, and that's a big attraction for people who want to be active like me in a retired life. I want to know that those connectivities exist.
Yes.
That to me validated a lot of the hard work that's gone in and the vision that you have shared with us over the last 5 years in bringing us to a city that is up to date and current with what's happening across the country and vibrant cities to what we're going to look like in the future as well.
Oh yes, and it's not hyperbole. We have a great community.
Yeah.
Not only is it just geographically awesome and we have wonderful features, but when you talk on a whole, we have wonderful, positive people that are kind and good, and it's a great place to work. I am so glad to be here.
Road construction is a part of life. It's going to be here. It's ending now. The main part of it's ending now for 2019. 2020 kicks off soon. Again, let's be realistic with the amount of time it takes us to travel. be prepared, be educated, and if there's any issues, David's crew is always good about answering those questions. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out to your elected officials. We're available to you. That's our jobs. So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Mayor's Table. David, thank you for all you're doing for the city of Farmington and your team. Join us next time. We'll be updating you on many new things going on inside the city. We appreciate you tuning in.